Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today, Duck Talks number 66, and the four topics are related to the number 66. First of all, the evil temperatures in Germany, topic number 1, that will be a quick one. Then, topic number 2, the circle begins again. When we run through the lifetime of a circle, this is now again the dying phase of the patch, as usual, as we will have seen this in the past quite often. Topic number 3, and that's the main name-giving topic, the throwaway mentality of Gaijin, of War Thunder players, and within the game that kind of ruins it. And that is really worth listening to. I have actually written some sort of dedicated script with it, so it's not my free rambling as usual, but it's not really dumbed down as well. So the topics and the examples and all those things will be rounded up with the fourth topic, that is the questions. And again, shout out to you guys. Thank you for asking the questions, but even more, thank you for hashtagging them, because it is difficult to go through hundreds and hundreds of comments, but it's so much easier to filter them out if there is hashtag question. That makes it so much easier and so much faster for me, and you still get answered those questions properly. So with that, let's start with the first topic. So maybe you hear it in the background, and I'm sorry for this, but the fan is running, the fans of the PC are running. I tried to keep the air circulating around. I had to close the window because of improved sound, of course. And meanwhile, the room here is already heating up quite significantly again. And that is because we have evil temperatures. Yesterday we had over 40 degrees. We now have already reached in excess of 38 degrees of Celsius. And this is not normal for here in Bavaria. We're not used to this. I hate that. I love cold weather. I thrive in cold weather. That's not just due to my allergies, etc. With all the, with all the plants trying to reproduce and polluting the air more than humans do usually. And so, yeah, I love the cold. And I am not very well suited for dealing with heat. And already everything in excess of 30 degrees Celsius is very uncomfortable for me personally. So you can imagine breaching 35 degrees Celsius is hell. 38 in excess, I have no idea. Showering multiple times a day. I know all the tips and tricks, and I drink a lot, and but it's just that I'm not used to it, and breaching 40 degrees is just sheer brutality. I know I have to mention this because a lot of you have already made fun of this. Lol, 30 degrees, 35 degrees, how cute, here in Australia. Yeah, Bavaria is not Australia, little sunshine. And it's not just blank pure heat, it's also the sun, that it is just so brutally bright, unusually bright, and at least I imagine, as well as just, it's not dry heat. The humidity is through the roof. It's really awful. And if I'm outside, if I am here or there, it's everywhere. One of the reasons is that the houses are also not built to deal with this kind of heat. And air conditioning units here in Germany, in Bavaria, are still relatively uncommon. Although in the last few years the business with them went through the roof, since we have more and more heat waves, more hotter and hotter every year, longer and longer, with more dry periods, and there is very often also no relief with a thunderstorm at night where everything would cool down, where you then can at least sleep at night. No, it's really brutal, and I hope that this will be changed from the weather's perspective soon. Heaven, please nerf heat. Yeah, it's absolutely brutal, and so I hope that you can understand where I'm going with this. It is absolutely madman. Yesterday I was down at the restaurant because I couldn't go out and buy something to cook myself food. No, I went to the restaurant. It's just right next door. And on the table outside at 9 o'clock at night, a bug landed. Well, it more or less crash landed, Chingle style. But the reason why I'm telling you this, because this bug died of a heat shock. So it tried to fly away, it tried to stand up. I pushed it over so that it is on his feet again, and it flipped itself again because it was moving in shock. And a few minutes later, the bug was dead, and there was just simply, well, nothing really that I could have done. If bugs die due to unusual weather conditions, something's wrong here, and I don't even want to imagine what all the wildlife has to experience at the moment. Like the deer, etc. It's absolutely mad here. And that brings us to the next topic, which is called The Cycle Begins Again. And the cycle is already running, it never stops, so the title is a little bit misleading, but so it begins again could be as much of a valid topic or the lifespan of a patch. And this is what I want to just bring a little bit of your attention to. So a lot of you are very familiar with the various different steps within a patch, and usually it goes the way that the patch drops. Patch day is absolute madness, all the new stuff that you can buy, all the new stuff that you can unlock, and you're busy grinding, and then you unlock stuff, you're disappointed despite my realistic expectations video, despite what you promised yourself from this, that you didn't believe the negative sides of the dev blogs or etc., and you fell for the hype created by some content creators. And again, I know this sounds a little bit arrogant and a little bit selfish, but this is why I began to make those realistic expectation series of devblog discussions or the Napalm's newest news, which make a little bit of mockery of all the content creators that hype the stuff over the top. To be excited for stuff, there is nothing wrong with this, but I'm playing this game for over 6 years. I have way in excess of 1,300 vehicles on my account, unlocked and spaded. I've seen everything, including the high tier madness. So this is why I feel like I can give somewhat of a prediction to new stuff. And so you begin to grind. You throw a lot of time into the game, you invest money for the latest premiums, for the best stuff that is out there, and especially if people rant about something overpowered, that's your chance to abuse the system a little bit, because you are just like any other player, you are very much self-interested. It is about your progress, so nobody can really blame you for that. And then the grind continues. Maybe you give up on certain lines because it's all about new high tier stuff that costs 390,000 silver line, 390,000 RP to unlock, and also to just simply buy it another million, and that costs a lot of time, a lot of tears and sweat will run down your body so that you can actually have the vehicle of your desires, which then is stock. Yeah, that's the other topic. And so you run through the wheel like an absolute madman over and over again. The grind has no end, and when you're finally done with your desired vehicle, either it gets nerfed or the next patch is around the corner and it gets obsolete. And this is where we then will go for the throwaway mentality topic next. But before this, so again, then the dev blogs get released, a new wave of high tier stuff gets announced, you're excited, and your brain shovels away all the issues that you currently experience, and you think, just with the next patch it will get better. Then the promised land has arrived and everything will be awesome and fun and great and I can enjoy the game. Gaijin says not, and then you're done. But it is just this life cycle of a patch, and already you see that I'm a little bit not so interested in new stuff, rather in fixing old stuff, and then therefore preparing a nicer playing gaming experience for everybody, and also preparing the game for the future. So at the moment it seems like Gaijin is strangling this to death, which I don't like. So finally, let's talk about the throwaway mentality in War Thunder and why that is actually a problem. So with throwaway mentality, that is something that is usually, I don't know if this is actually a used terminology, and maybe throwaway culture is more used. I'm not so familiar with this, but usually it applies to that you use something and then you just throw it away, or even if something is designed to be used multiple more times, just because people are lazy, they use it one time and throw it away because it's cheap, just because it's so much easier than to actually trying to clean it or get it in the condition to be ready to be reused, whatever. And that is not exactly the same way that I would describe here the topic, but it is in multiple ways just something that applies to the game. It's the principle of all just being temporary. And believe me, trust me, I know how a free-to-play title works, what the main principle is, to keep the show going, to insert new stuff. But that's done in a way that I absolutely cannot approve of. So the higher the battle rating goes, the more it becomes apparent throughout ships, planes, helicopters, and also tanks. And let's talk about tank RB here for a moment. The single tank doesn't mean anything. It has no value to the gameplay because everybody plays it that way. And also everybody has to go through the same grind. Yet the game doesn't really appreciate you having that new tank. It actually punishes you for it with the stock grind, and also with you then not having instantly a fully fledged out, completely spaded lineup, as it is, for example, necessary in Tank RP if you play every single game from start to finish and try your very best. What I mean by this is, for example, the situation that has never been truly resolved. Potato or milk trucks rushing to a cab, capture it before anybody else of this team can help you in assisting the capture zone and also getting some spawn points, and then they just simply bail out, either to go into a better helicopter or another plane, just to have the easy swing at the enemy team, just to bullshit them. So this is already one piece of the puzzle when I talk about the throwaway mentality. The next thing is that this is the most efficient way in certain battle rating areas to advance, to win games, to make a hefty impact on the gameplay. And then I ask you, or better, you ask yourself, is this nice to watch? Is this nice to watch on Twitch or on YouTube? Just compare the size of YouTubers that go into War Thunder or into other games of similar kind of standards. And then just compare the amount of YouTubers and the size of the YouTubers and the kind of videos that they do. Another thing is, which is another sort of throwaway mentality, do you remember this tier 4 premium tank meta? The T29, the Tiger 2 SLA 16, the IS-6. I'm not talking about their buffs and nerfs. No, this is an even greater picture. You know, before when they were initially sold, they had some things were going on where they just didn't work, or their armor didn't work. It actually worked better than advertised, and they were overperforming. And then after the sales, Gaijin nerfed them according to the official states. But again, after the initial sales. And this is something that I want to ignore here and talk about something else. Those tanks were sold for a hefty price, and they were the top rank best performing tanks, or let's say the best flagships at that time. And this is so long gone. Napalm, why you even begin to talk about this? Well, then we had the first batch of rank 5 premiums, and let me just talk you through if the T114, the Maga 3 and the T54E1 were then here in this example for the Americans sold, and that was just not really that desirable. Also the T114 was nerfed if you compare my tank review on it to its actual status right now. Just compare here a little bit. And then all those tanks are also no longer the best grinders, because now we have rank 6 premiums. And this was completed with this patch throughout all the nations. We have the XM1 for the Americans. We have the Leopard A1A1 L44 for the Germans. We have the T54 AM1 for the Soviets. And for the British, we have the awesome Shotcal Dalet. For Japan, we have the Type 74G. For Italy, we have the OF40 MTCA. And for France, we have the MX30 Super. All of them, with the exception of the XM1, are battle rating 8.7, establishing a new premium meta, just as we had years before with the tanks, especially the heavy tanks, which were called the T29, the Target 2 SLA-16, and also the IS-6. So you already bought this tank, the T29, if your account is old enough, because you thought that's a nice tank, that's the highest tiered premium, so I can research all the glorious top tier tanks with this. But the game has moved on, and this is a significant difference to, let's for example say Wargaming's Wall of Tanks. I bought the Löwe, very famous tank. Everybody should know about this that knows Wall of Tanks. German heavy tank, obviously. And I bought this tank. That tank that I bought years ago still has the same value. So if I would relog in and begin to play Wall of Tanks again, I could play this. And I criticize World of Tanks personally for a lot of things, a lot of bullshit that I just don't like in the first place, and so I've decided to play War Thunder. But in this example, Wargaming is not throwing away the tank for you, not devaluating it. And that is before we talked through all the nerfs and buffs to all the tanks. And I want to give you some more recent examples. So remember the M60 A1 DC Ariete, which got nerfed by removing the stabilizer due to new documents, and instead of changing the name to a tank that is similar but with a stabilizer, no, it had to be nerfed, but just in time for the arrival of the OF40 MTCA, a higher ranked premium that is just the same performance-wise than all the other tanks, but it's Italian. You pay with not just your pride, but also with your money for it. MX30 Super with stabilizer? Sure, no pay-to-win argument here if you compare it to the MX30 B2 Brenners, for example, that sits at the same battle rating, in the same tech tree, in the same nation, but doesn't have a stabilizer. Or the Shotcal Dalet shall be compared to the Chieftain at the same battle rating, which has no heat, no APF SDS, and not all those nice machine guns, and also doesn't have era protection, and is not as mobile than the Shotcal Dalet. Or let's talk here about also nerfing all the premiums, such as the Target 2 SLA-16, where the diesel fuel tank explodes when a shrapnel hits it. That didn't happen with the normal Tiger 2 before, that had a petrol-powered power plant, and also it didn't happen when this tank initially was sold. I could go into many more details where this happens, but I want to just bring you another example here from the naval forces. The German destroyer, the Z-20 Karl Galster, the C-20 or Z-20, its armor-piercing shell got removed. Then we saw a power creep, not just by the addition of the cruisers and better performing destroyers, but also, for example, the US destroyer's rate of fire, which was previously the best with the Z-20, they got buffed. So the Z-20 is now a trash thing, and that's before we have to talk about its accuracy, and not even mentioning here the Z-32, the Summer, the Sumners, and the cruisers. Just to give this here as an example, it's now less than worthless. It's pain to play. Well, that's a nice title for a gaming genre, right? Pain to play. So essentially, what you have bought in War Thunder and also what you have achieved in War Thunder gets power creeped, nerfed, and ruined to a point where it's not really worth playing it, and very often it is not fun anymore to play. But only the higher the battle rating goes, the more it becomes apparent. A lot of the low tier premiums, up until rank, let's say 3, are more or less fine. New additions get shoved in existing research lines to extend the grind, even though you have researched the other plane, tank, or ship. You still have to buy it. A lot of people are currently waiting for the discounts currently going on. And so, yeah, you have to research another thing to only buy the thing that you couldn't afford because of all those repair costs, ammunition costs, and the bugged and busted economy. So to jump to the next tier becomes more and more difficult. Another example is shifting the meta away from one nation to another nation. For example, when the first Abrams was introduced, it was the go-to meme tank. All other tanks were just outperformed. I'm not even mentioning here now the Ariete that has at the same battle rating an APF SDS with nearly twice the penetration power, rendering its survivability and armor advantage that initially had completely obsolete. And that's a tank that when you first had to research it cost 390,000 RP or 380,000. And then shifting also the meta between the vehicle classes. For example, initially tanks versus tanks. Now from 8.0 on, it's all about helicopters. And it was about helicopters the previous patch. But then the first, obviously the first radar guided SPA was there, which was nice, but not so effective versus all those helicopters launching their ATGMs from 8 kilometers away, which was game breaking in my opinion, and was definitely not fun for you to use a tank. So you had to research and buy a helicopter and stock grind it, which was also a disaster by itself. And you had no other choice because there is only tank RP. There is no other game mode except for the arcade version, and that's a tragedy by itself. So no real game mode for helicopter. The only vehicle class within War Thunder that has not a dedicated game mode for itself, aside from a dumbed down version, which is not really that popular. And then those helicopters not just only got nerfed, but SAMs were introduced in this patch. And the patch before, there were also SAMs introduced, such as the Tunguska. But now, with the automatic, the Tunguska and the Adats, you also have very, very capable anti-tank things. So now, it's not the age of the tank anymore in tanked RB. It's not the age of the helicopter anymore. In conjunction with the Roland 1, the Flakrakt 1 and the Stormer HVM, it's now the age of SPA. Technically the ADATS is not an SPA, but it's better at doing so than many of the other previously mentioned SPAs. I wonder what the next Japanese top tier SPA will be. So there you have many examples, and many more could be found within the game throughout the patches. So we have the nerf of premium vehicles after their initial sell. We have a change of meta. We have more and more ranks to go. Rank 8 could be still possible, just like with the introduction of rank 7, because this is how Gaijin makes the most money apparently. And you guys actually don't like this. There is so much complaint about the economy, the research, the balance, the power creep, the compression, and yet you are playing it. You're spending your money fueling that progression fire that Gaijin burns you with. I'll give you another example, this time with a good guessed prediction. And you can mark my words right here. What we will see as another example in Naval Forces is an upcoming disaster of probably in a few patches only. That is down to the community requesting bullshit stuff. What I'm talking about is anti-ship cruise missiles, anti-ship guided missiles, anti-ship missiles in general. And what I fear is that you're there, hopefully in your heavy cruiser or in your battle cruisers, battleships even. Maybe you're the proud owner of a Yamato, Bismarck, Iowa, or King George V, or whatever battleship class for your nation, and you think, ha, now I'm in a battleship, now I have good guns. Oh, what are those anti-ship missiles coming towards me where I can't do anything against them? Oh no, I'm destroyed. Boo-hoo. Because somebody on Reddit was really fueling the fire for their implementation, and this is now the next rank 5 or 6 premium for that sad nation, just making your World War II based technology completely obsolete. Oh, we never have any sort of kind of clash of technology like this in the game already? Yeah, tell my World War II jets from the Germans or some of the British Spitfire modifications that have a battle rating of 6.7 when they have to encounter some of the German premium this time with a guided missile. Or just have a look at, for example, the Maus or the Jagdtiger or some of those tanks that have to encounter premium tanks, a full battle rating lower, equipped with ATGMs, up to 600 millimeters of heat penetration. Or you can also encounter helicopters, which is so much fun in those tanks. Now, yes, there are single examples, but if you go through the tech trees, if you go through all the nations, you see more and more of this, the never-ending cycle. And this is another death blow to naval forces if this gets ever implemented. Somebody giggling behind an island in complete safety, just lobbing those anti-ship missiles onto the enemy, not caring about the objective, not caring about winning the game, and then ranting on Reddit if then his glorious ships get destroyed by some other new bullshit countermeasures designed to destroy this kind of warship, because that's then the next higher tiered premium from another nation to counter this. And in those ships you will then find the captains of the Bismarcks, Yamatos, Iowas and King George V's, which are now smiling because they destroyed you, which you previously destroyed them in this premium ship that is now obsolete. And oh wonder who has the last laugh? Gaijin with their policy of throwaway mentality. Please keep this in mind. The next time there is an offer for a pre-order, there is a discount on a bundle, or the next time you think about investing any sort of money into War Thunder, are you willing this to become obsolete in just a few patches time? I wonder when anybody will really draw consequences from that. Because I don't think that at the end the community cares too much. Sure, I get some likes, some dislikes, I get some very furious comments in the comment section, going forth and back in the argumentation, with me, against the subject, with the subject, supporting it, not supporting it, hating on it. But at the end, Gaijin profits and you continue to play. You continue to not just play, but you, more importantly for Gaijin, you continue to pay. And the lesson that the CEO from Gaijin gets from your behavior is, we get away with this bullshit. We make profit with it. We don't even have to try. And so the only thing that really would Gaijin force to make any sort of positive changes for the gameplay experience from changing with this throwaway mentality is they need a competitor. But nobody tries to compete here with War Thunder in this business because it's too much effort and Gaijin already is established. You already have invested so much time, you have already invested so much money, despite it making no difference to the current state of your gameplay experience because it's devaluated. It's gone, the value is gone. You still, with your mind, hang on it. That's the problem that you have with your own personality, and nobody can really blame you from this perspective. But again, Gaijin profits. It's a magnificently established system, and Gaijin gets away with it. I don't want to hate on Gaijin, but I hate on the system coming into my way every single day, every single match that I play. And I hate that the game experience suffers because of this, that the game quality gets in the way of making money. It should be not like this. It should be that you pay for a nice game that you can enjoy. But apparently making money is not enough. No, like Jim Sterling always says, they have to make all the money that there is. And there is no escape, there is no alternative to War Thunder. There is no real alternative to video gaming except if you want to deal with real people. Ugh. No, sitting in front of the PC, making you a prisoner in your own home. That is the reality. And we all love it. So, is this a bit negative of mine? Let me know in the comment section, because I am really looking forward to those kind of comments. And yeah, that's the result when I write a script once in a while. What is not really scripted is the answering of the questions from the Duck Talks number 65. So here we go. The first question comes from Jay Wild, and he has 3 very long questions, but basically he asks me, what do you think about these gameplay issues, massively imbalanced objectives in air RB, broken implementation of CAS in ground RB, and also underperforming pen of most high-tier APCR, HWAP, APDS, APFSDS, etc. In tank RB in general, and he lists a long list. So first of all, thank you for answering this question, and also to write so much. It was a joy to read for somebody that loves a good educated question, but it's very difficult to answer this in this video, and practically I made a lot of comments in a lot of videos, and I know that all those issues are for real in the game for a very long time. I think that it shouldn't be a problem. I think it could have been handled much better. I think that all you say has some sort of value to it. All of you, all that you complain about is true. But this is just a very small section of what's actually wrong in the game. So think about that. A very nice question comes from Minister of Betrayal. Question: would you like to see the Shimakaze in game? The Shimakaze was one of the fastest destroyers in the world at the time of her creation and has a pretty good torpedo load. Only one was built because Japan didn't have the resources and the industrial capacity to produce it in large numbers, as it was a complex design. Well, that's a very nice question to answer, because yes and no. What I mean by this is that I would love to see the Shimakaze in game, but I don't see any sort of purpose for it. For example, we already have the IJN Kiyoshimo in game that has already a stunning torpedo firepower with 16 long lances, so you can launch 8 of them in the first place, and the torpedo power is only viable in a certain game mode, encounter, especially only in one certain scenario, which is Mediterranean port. And then it depends on the spawn location that you get, the exact spawn location, if some of your allies drive into the torpedoes, and if the enemy's Shimakaze isn't really faster at dropping the torps, or just has a spawn advantage for this purpose on torpedoing the AI ships 20 kilometers away. So think about this. I would love to see it in game. It would nice to see, but it's in terms of gunfire power and torpedo power, nothing completely new to what we already have in game, and its purpose is, well, already fulfilled. Yes, there are many arguments going for it, but it wouldn't be really any sort of new destroyer class, if you know what I mean. And in terms of light cruisers, heavy cruisers, and much better gunboats that have also pretty good torpedoes, I'm not quite sure how good it will get, and if we will see in the future any sort of game mode that supports this kind of torpedo firepower, because that's all that the Shimakaze is good for, because in terms of gunfire power, it can't hold a light or a candle to some of the American destroyers and even the German destroyers. Kenny Lin asks, question, how do you fly the B7A2? I love this plane, but I always can't get kills using the bombs. So first of all, the B7A2 is a very nice plane indeed. I personally love it, but every time I try to use it, I don't have the very best of time in it as well. But it is some sort of naval dive bomber, torpedo bomber, and it has a very good torpedo at this. But when we talk about the bombs, yeah, the single 800 kilogram bomb is one trick pony, and then the two 250 kilogram bombs and the 460 kilogram bombs, which are the other payloads, they are not that effective in tank RP, if this is what you're talking about. It is a very nice plane. It can actually hold up itself in a fight versus some interceptors, so it still has some very nice turning capabilities. But just train a little bit better with it. Don't expect too much from the plane. If you don't expect anything from it, then yeah, it can surprise you in a positive way. And now that sounds a bit dumb, but when you get behind this plane, you see what I mean with this kind of statement. His second question is, any favorite Russian low battle rating ships? Also need a guide on how to aim with a gun. Well, first of all, I love my Russian river patrol boats, the one with armor and 85mm guns. I even recently won a talisman on the MBK Project 186, but I think that the premium one, the MBK Project 186 MK85, makes a lot of money and it is nice to play. It has some armor. If you know how to angle, if you know how to switch the ammunition, prioritize the enemy, stay at long range, it can be an absolute blast. But then there is obviously the PGO2 that ruins everything for you, because the APDS from this 20mm punches clean through your armor and just blows up your citadel like it's nobody's business. I've done it myself, I've experienced it myself, it's no fun anymore. And how to aim with a gun? Well, that's just down to practice, really, and you just have to watch the fall of shots and adjust with the lead and also with the distance, and obviously use your mouse wheel to adjust the distance setting, and always shoot a bit short. The trajectory is nice, the damage output is nice, use HE on anything that doesn't have armor, and the few opponents that have armor are obviously a prime target for your armor piercing. Black Templar asked a question in Germany, but basically he thinks that a lot of the tanks that are currently at 5.7 should go down to 5.3, such as the Tiger H, the Panther D, the IS-1, and the T-3485 D5T. And if I agree to this, or what my opinion is there. Well, seen from lower battle rating tanks, they are there where they should be. The problem is when those before mentioned tanks suddenly face all the 6.7 tanks, and that is the problem, that you receive up tier after up tier. And the best solution currently, the quickest solution that even War Thunder or Gaijin can do, is to reduce the battle rating spread in matchmaking to 0.7. That's what we need. So if you let them go down to 5.3, they are then the cause for 4.3 tanks to encounter them, and that will then result in even more compression at lower battle ratings. So Just Hans asks, what's your real name? Napalmratte. Maximum Ping asks, do you think Gaijin needs to get rid of, somehow reduce the frequency of full up tiers? Well, first of all, as I said in the previous question, you receive at certain battle ratings a ungodly amount of up tiers, and certain battle ratings you're always top tier. For example, currently with the 8.7 tanks, you're most of the time top tier. So there are the so-called battle rating black holes. My first advice is, if you don't enjoy it, don't play it. I know it's probably the battle rating where your favorite tank is, but that's just how it is. It's not me to blame. Sadly, it is again Gaijin, and so it lands on deaf ears. I agree that one should have only a certain ratio of up tiers, but then that would completely ruin the matchmaking even more. And then the argument of Gaijin that you don't get any sort of matches at all might even become a viable argument, but that has its origins of more and more players leaving to the original issue. So it's kind of a devil's cycle, as we say here in Germany, and that's just again how it is. X Patka 3000 asked how to play War Thunder without being salty at the end of the day. Eat a lot of sugar and have a desalination plant nearby. The Senate asks, what do you think of some planes like the TAR 152H costing more to repair than the T2? Well, that's a funny old story because the T2 gets flown against itself, so it kind of balances itself. The TAR 152 flies with the Germans, and obviously the German teams very often ruffle stomp the Allied teams due to the fact that the Allies love to spam bombers and ground attackers, and the few fighters that they then have left on their team go either in head-ons where the German planes are just better suited for it, or they just run into the horde of German players that stick together, so you get an artificially increased win ratio with the German teams due to the incompetence or kind of the offer of not very well suited planes for the meta. So planes like the American bombers, planes like the American ground attackers are very well performing in their designated role, but they do not really very often contribute to the win of their team, and also they don't get that many kills by themselves. So when it comes to balancing the game by repair cost, which is absolutely stupid, Gaijin sees that German fighters are very successful, apparently, according to their statistics, because they don't know how this come to be, because they don't play their own game. So yeah, we are there where we started from, and you enjoy those high repair costs, despite the plane still having a tragically bad flight model. Just to top it off right there. So, and apparently that was the last question with the hashtag question, and also I couldn't find any more other questions. So again, if you have a question, feel free to ask it in the comment section down below. Hashtag question, then ask your question, and I'll answer it in the next Dark Talks number 67, which hopefully will come a bit more sooner than this one. And again, for apologizing not to stick to my schedule of making a Duck Talks every single week. So still, I hope you enjoyed this video and you didn't die watching and listening to this video because of all the heat if you are from Germany. I wish you all the best one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like, give it a subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the ways, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.